Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Unfolding Story. We have James and Jane, and today, first time Elena. I'm Nash, and it's great to have you with us today as we dive into something I've been thinking about a lot. This incredible, almost secret rhythm that's hiding under every single story we hear, especially in the ancient texts.
A secret rhythm. That sounds intriguing, Nash. Like a hidden beat that connects everything?
Exactly, James. It's the same beat we hear inside our own lives, you know? That fundamental cycle: we reach, we fall, we're found, and then, if we're lucky, we rise again. It's just woven into the fabric of existence. And nowhere is it clearer than in some of the earliest stories in Scripture.
I love that. It makes the grand narratives feel so much more personal. Like they're not just history, but a mirror to our own experiences. What's our first stop on this rhythmic journey?
Our first stop, naturally, is the garden. Adam and Eve. It's the quintessential story of choice and separation, isn't it? That pivotal moment where everything shifted.
And it's fascinating how simple it sounds on the surface, but the implications are vast. A single choice, a single bite, leading to such profound consequences.
Right. And it boils down to one powerful thought. A thought that I honestly believe kicks off every single sin we see play out in Scripture, and probably in our own lives too. I know better. It's that subtle whisper that we somehow have superior wisdom or a different perspective than what's been given.
Oh wow, I know better. That hits hard because, let's be real, who hasn't felt that? Whether it's ignoring advice, cutting corners, or just stubbornly clinging to our own way even when we know it's probably not the best.
Absolutely. It's not always a grand rebellion. Sometimes it's just that quiet insistence on our own autonomy, even over something we intuitively know is good for us. Like, I know I should get more sleep, but this last episode of my show. Or, I know I should eat healthier, but this pizza is calling my name.
It's the first fracturing, isn't it? The separation from a state of trust and innocence. From the moment they chose to know better, they were separated from the garden, from unburdened relationship with God, and even, in a way, from themselves, becoming acutely aware of their vulnerability.
Exactly. That's the fall part of the rhythm. And it leads us quite dramatically to our next story, which is really about a cosmic reset. We move from the personal choice of Adam and Eve to the collective consequence of humanity's choices, the flood.
The flood, yeah, that's a heavy one. The world filled with so much wickedness, so much corruption, that God, in a sense, pressed the giant reset button.
It is. But here's the key insight I think we often miss. When God grieves, he cleans. It's not to erase, it's to restore. It's not an act of pure destruction for destruction's sake, but a painful, necessary purge to make way for new life, for restoration.
That's such a profound reframing. It makes me think of those seasons in our own lives, you know, when things just get so messy, so stagnant, so full of rotten habits or relationships that you just have to clear it all out. It's painful, it's disruptive, but it's essential for starting fresh.
It's a forced stripping away of everything that's no longer serving life, isn't it? A radical pruning, and in the aftermath, there's always the promise of something new emerging, like the rainbow after the storm. It speaks to resilience and the cyclical nature of growth.
I've definitely had my flood moments, times when I realized I needed to just wipe the slate clean in certain areas, a bad habit, a toxic friendship, a career path that was draining me. It felt overwhelming at first, but the clarity on the other side was undeniable.
Exactly. And it wasn't about being punished, it was about being given a chance to start over, to learn, to grow. And that's the found part of our rhythm in a way. Even in the midst of the chaos, there's always a Noah, always a promise for a new beginning.
But humanity, bless our hearts, has a short memory. Or maybe it's just that deeply ingrained I know better impulse. Because right after the flood, we see this incredible, almost immediate resurgence of human pride. And that brings us to our third story, the Tower of Babel.
Ah, the Tower of Babel, trying to reach heaven on their own terms to make a name for themselves. It's such a classic human ambition, isn't it?
It's the ultimate expression of collective hubris. Not just one person, but an entire society convinced of its own capacity to circumvent divine order, to ascend through sheer will and construction.
And honestly, we're still stacking bricks, aren't we? Whether it's followers on social media, likes, accolades on our resumes, the perfect curated image of our lives, we're constantly trying to reach heaven from our own side, to to build our own towers of significance and validation.
That's so true. The drive to be recognized, to be somebody, to leave our mark. It's so powerful, and sometimes, it can become an all-consuming Tower of Babel in our own lives.
And the consequence of Babel was confusion, a scattering. People couldn't understand each other. It was a breakdown of communication, right?
It makes me think of how, sometimes, when we're so caught up in our own ambition, our own building, we stop truly listening. We're just broadcasting, talking over each other, creating a cacophony instead of connection.
Exactly, Jane. In fact, just for a moment, let's try something. Let's just take a moment of silence, everyone listening just for a few seconds.
Pause for 5 seconds. Hear that? That's the sound of Babel. Or actually what should have been the sound of Babel. Too much talking, not enough listening. Our world is often so loud, so full of our own voices, our own agendas, that we miss the whispers.
That's a powerful pattern interrupt, Nash. It highlights how much of our perceived success, especially in a digital age, is tied to making noise, to being seen and heard, rather than truly connecting or hearing something beyond ourselves.
And that contrast leads us to our final story in this rhythm, a story that breaks the cycle of pride and noise. We move from the scattered men of Babel to one man, called out by a whisper, Abraham, and his story is all about promise under the stars.
Abraham, the father of faith, he really stands in stark contrast to the tower builders, doesn't he? They were building up, he was called to go out, into the unknown.
And it was a call to trust, right? To believe in a promise that seemed utterly impossible, given his age and Sarah's barrenness. It wasn't about what he could do, but what God would do.
Precisely. The same God who scattered men with words calls one man with a whisper. He didn't come with a grand pronouncement to a mighty king. He came to an old man, telling him to leave everything familiar and just trust. And the promise? Descendants as numerous as the stars. An impossible vision given to someone who had every reason to doubt.
It's the ultimate rise-again moment, but not through self-exertion or ambition. It's a rising born of surrender and faith, a willingness to be led rather than to lead oneself. It's the antithesis of I know better, embracing God knows best instead.
That's where the real growth happens, isn't it? When you finally let go of trying to control everything and just step into the unknown with faith. It's scary, but it's where new paths open up.
Absolutely. It's the rise in our rhythm. The rise not of our own making, but a rising into a new purpose, a new identity, guided by something far greater than our own I know better ambition.
So we have Adam and Eve and the choice and separation, the flood as the great reset, the Tower of Babel and the noise of human pride, and then Abraham and the quiet promise of faith. It really does feel like a recurring pattern, doesn't it?
It does, and that's the crucial part. This pattern isn't just ancient history. It's the pattern in you. It's in every single one of us. These first chapters of the Bible, they aren't just about history. They're about habit. They're about the deeply ingrained patterns of human behavior and God's interaction with it.
It reframes our understanding of Scripture from a distant narrative to an immediate personal guide. It makes us ask, where am I in this cycle? Am I still operating from I know better in certain areas?
And that leads to some challenging questions, honestly. Where do I need a flood in my life? What's rotten that needs clearing out, even if it feels uncomfortable or scary?
Or where do I need a tower break? Where am I building things for my own glory, for external validation, when I should be listening for a quieter, more authentic call? Are my likes drowning out actual connection?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the most hopeful question. Where do you need a new promise? Where do you need to stop striving and start trusting? To step out in faith even when you don't have all the answers. Just like Abraham under those stars.
It's a powerful invitation, isn't it, to really examine our own internal rhythms and see which of these ancient patterns are playing out in our daily choices, big and small.
It makes me think about my approach to problem solving. Am I trying to build my own tower through sheer effort, or am I open to a flood that clears the path, or a whisper that points a new way?
And it makes me feel less alone in those moments of fall, knowing that it's part of a universal rhythm and that found and rise are always part of the potential too.
That's exactly it. These stories aren't just history, they're our story. They're the blueprint for understanding ourselves, our struggles, and our potential for renewal. This rhythm of reaching, falling, being found, and rising again is always at play.
So, as you go about your week, I encourage you to tune into that rhythm. Listen for the I know better whisper, consider where you might need a personal flood, pause to discern the noise of your own tower, and open your heart to that quiet, impossible promise that might just be waiting for you under your own personal stars.
A beautiful way to connect the ancient with the immediate. Thank you, Nash, James, and Jane, for this insightful conversation.
Yeah, this was really thought-provoking. I'm going to be sitting with these questions for a while.
Me too. It's always good to get that fresh perspective on stories we think we know so well.
It truly is, and next time we're going to step into another powerful narrative, one filled with betrayal, forgiveness, and the incredible mystery of God's timing. We'll be diving deep into the life of Joseph. You won't want to miss it.
Until then, keep your heart curious, your mind open, and your spirit tuned to grace. We'll talk to you next time on The Unfolding Story. Take care, everyone.